We hear first contestant 139, whose title is A Sensitive Kind of Guy.
Hello and welcome to all those who are to be having a jolly good time. I know I'm ready to get down and hit the dance floor. Not to mention snag some voluptuous ladies. But while I'm getting my freak on, there are lots and lots of gods just waiting to be worshipped, dots ready to be put on one's faces, and lots of American jobs just waiting to be outsourced.
Now that was me a couple weeks ago. But in my defense, I did it in the one place I could be certain no one would pay any attention at all, at school. And as MC of my school's ethnic fair, I was single-handedly responsible for this year's record-breaking turnout of 8 people, 7 of whom found my little speech to be racially insensitive. And it really got to me. I asked myself, how could I, the son of immigrants from India who came to America with just $5 tucked away in their back pockets and managed to live the American dream despite insensitivity, demonstrate it myself? So the other day, obviously over some curry, I started to think about the insensitivity in all of us, its causes, stereotypes, and hate speech, its impact on our society, and the nature of this pervasive conflict. And finally, some common sense solutions, things you and I can do in our everyday lives to mitigate the profoundly negative effects of this societal illness. But first, what causes racial insensitivity? Now, the first set of causes are stereotypes. We all know what stereotypes are, and the stereotypes we're supposed to know. We know that Asians are bad drivers, that African Americans are tremendous athletes, and that Irish people like to get crunk, as the kids are calling it nowadays. But less often do we stop and think about how widespread stereotypes really are. Now, a lot of you seem like the kind of guys who like to go home after a tough day at the office, sit back, relax, and watch your favorite soap. But somewhere in Sylvia's web of lies about her evil twin sister's fake colon cancer that's actually a severe case of melanoma kept hidden from her by her doctor/lover/brother-in-law, there may be propagated racial stereotypes. In fact, according to a recent study conducted by psychologist at the University of Illinois, Travis Dixon, he found that oftentimes our minds subconsciously relate the blue-collar criminals we see on television, almost uniformly portrayed as African Americans and Latinos, with the African Americans and Latinos we see in our everyday lives. In other words, we take fictional lives and apply them to the very real lives of very real people. And it has to stop. Now, the second cause of racial insensitivity is hate speech. Now, an example of hate speech is when Rush Limbaugh broadcasts on a nationally syndicated radio show a song entitled Barack the Magic Negro. Or when Don Imus similarly refers to the hardworking and dedicated student athletes of the Rutgers University women's basketball team as nothing more than a bunch of nappy-headed hoes. Or I suppose a couple weeks ago at the ethnic fair when I warned all 8 attendees not to confuse the red dot on my mother's forehead with a sniper zeroing in on his target. The point is, the more we are racially insensitive, the more it becomes okay to be racially insensitive. Which brings us to the impact of this pervasive conflict on our society and its very nature. Now, the thing about insensitivity is that it's neither a grassroots nor a grass tops affair. It goes both ways, so to speak. Now, for those of you who are thinking the phrase, "it goes both ways," can be perceived as either insensitive or hilarious, not only are you right, you're illustrating my point. The fact that our ears are so keenly attuned to anything we perceive as insensitive is really more of a symptom of this societal illness than it is a cure. Often we speak out about others' insensitivity, but really we're projecting the insecurity we harbor about our own. So instead, that insensitivity finds its way into our subconscious. As Sir Francis Bacon once said, the human understanding, once it's adopted a belief, draws on all else to support it. Tufts University psychologist Raymond Nickerson calls this phenomenon confirmation bias. And in the age of technology, it is easier than ever to find someone or something that's willing to confirm our beliefs. So through this belief confirmation, author John Avlon, in his book Wingnuts, How the Lunatic Fringe is Hijacking America, offers that this kind of extremism is found on both sides of the spectrum. And racism and insensitivity can erupt from either end. And for every Don Imus who refers to African Americans as nappy-headed, there's a Jeremiah Wright equally willing to say that America is run by a bunch of rich white people. So what Avlon finds more concerning is that these seemingly extreme elements in our society are increasingly encroaching upon its mainstream. Which explains why racial insensitivity has found its way to the single greatest member of society ever to walk the face of the continental United States, Miley Cyrus. That's right. Hannah Montana herself was pictured by TMZ.com making a gesture considered offensive towards those of East Asian descent. And millions of teenage girls are bound to be influenced by her example. And unlike Cyrus's hit single, "That's No Party in the USA." So how do we solve this problem? This self-fulfilling prophecy whose causes are its effects and whose effects are its causes. The only way we can even hope to do so is by tackling those causes head on. So how do we deal with stereotypes? Well, according to the American Institute of Psychology, it is as simple as being exposed to individuals who go against stereotypes. Now, a good example of someone who doesn't quite fit into his racial stereotype, aside from his crazy basketballing skills, is President Barack Obama. In fact, according to a recent study conducted by the University of Michigan, psychologists are now noting what they call the Obama effect, a virtual paradigm shift in racial attitudes singularly attributable to the world's exposure to the President of the United States, whether they like him or not. So through such exposure, you and I can leave stereotypes by the wayside and filter them out of our everyday consciousness. And the next time we see an Asian laundromat, we can take it for what it is: an Asian who owns a small business in America. And the next time you complain about getting schooled by African Americans at basketball, it's not because they're African American. It's because you suck. Now, we could deal with hate speech the same way, couldn't we? We could filter it out of our consciousness. The next time we see Keith Olbermann on the television, we could turn it off. The next time we hear Glenn Beck on the radio, we can turn the dial. Or we can do something just as simple, but far more profound. We can speak up. And the next time we hear insensitivity from anyone, we can let them know it's not okay to be insensitive, because the more they are insensitive, the more it becomes okay for all of us to be racially insensitive. So today we talked a little bit about the causes of insensitivity, stereotypes, and hate speech, its impact on our society. And finally, some common sense solutions, things you and I can do in our everyday lives to mitigate the profoundly negative effects of this societal illness. I'd like to leave you with the words of a man who always knows exactly what to say and when to say it. Kanye West, who once profoundly espoused upon us all, whether you Louis Vuittonin or Reebokin, now you see that hate they be serving on that platter. So tell me, what we gonna have? Dessert or disaster? And the funny thing is, it's really just up to us.